The man stopped eating. He stopped drinking. He refused to shower or change clothes. When doctors asked why, his answer was simple. Dead people don't need food. Dead people don't need water. I am dead, he told them. I can feel myself rotting. My organs have stopped working. I'm a walking corpse. And nothing anyone said could convince him otherwise. This is walking corpse syndrome, one of the rarest and most disturbing psychiatric conditions ever documented. And the people who suffer from it are absolutely convinced they no longer exist. The condition has a medical name, Cotard Delusion, named after Jules Cotard, a French neurologist who first described it in 1880. He called it le délire de negation, the delirium of negation. His first patient was a woman who believed she had no brain, no nerves, no chest, no stomach, no intestines. She claimed she was just skin and bones holding nothing. She didn't need to eat because she had no stomach to fill. She couldn't die because she was already dead. She eventually starved herself to death. Because in her mind, dead people don't eat. Walking corpse syndrome is incredibly rare. Only a few hundred cases have been documented worldwide, but every case is equally terrifying. People who are fully conscious, fully mobile, fully alive by every medical measure, but completely convinced they are dead. Their brain tells them something that defies all logic, all evidence, all reality, and they believe it with absolute certainty. One of the most famous cases happened in Scotland in 2004. A man we'll call David. He was in his 20s, previously healthy, no history of mental illness. Then he had a motorcycle accident, severe head trauma. He was in a coma for 2 weeks. When he woke up, something was wrong, very wrong. David told his mother he had died in the accident. She tried to reassure him. "You're alive," she said. "You're talking to me. You survived." But David wouldn't believe her. He insisted his brain had died. His organs had shut down. He was being kept animated by some unknown force. But he wasn't alive. Not really. He could feel himself decaying from the inside. He described the sensation of his internal organs liquefying, melting away. He said he could smell his own flesh rotting. The smell was so strong it made him nauseous. But of course, there was no smell. His body was perfectly healthy. His brain just couldn't accept that fact. David's family took him to psychiatrists. The doctors ran every test: brain scans, blood work, physical examinations. Everything came back normal. His body was functioning perfectly. But David remained convinced. He would stare at his hands for hours, watching for signs of decay. He claimed his fingers were turning black. His skin was falling off. But when others looked, they saw normal, healthy skin. The delusion was entirely in his mind. But to David, it was absolute reality. He stopped all self-care. Why shower if you're dead? Why eat if your stomach doesn't work? Why sleep if your brain has shut down? His mother had to force him to drink water. She had to physically put food in his mouth. David would spit it out. "Dead people don't eat," he would say calmly, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. His logic was consistent, terrifyingly consistent. If he was dead, everything made sense. If he was alive, nothing did. The condition affects different people in different ways. Some believe they are dead. Others believe they are immortal. Some believe their organs are missing or rotting. Others believe they never existed at all. One patient insisted she was nothing but a ghost. She could see herself, but shouldn't be able to. She was convinced she had died years ago and was now haunting the living, including herself. Another case involved a woman named Claire. She believed her brain had died, but her body kept functioning. She described it as being a zombie, trapped in a corpse that refused to stop moving. She would beg doctors to examine her brain, to confirm it was dead. When brain scans showed normal activity, she accused them of lying, of showing her someone else's scans. The evidence didn't matter. Her delusion was too strong. Scientists have studied what causes Cotard delusion. The leading theory involves two parts of the brain: the fusiform gyrus and the amygdala. The fusiform gyrus recognizes faces and familiar objects. The amygdala processes emotional responses. Normally, these work together. You see your face in the mirror. You recognize it. You feel an emotional connection to it. That's me. That's my body. I am alive. But in Cotard patients, something breaks. They can still recognize their face. their body, their surroundings, but they feel no emotional connection, no sense of ownership, no feeling of being alive. Their brain recognizes the body, but doesn't believe it belongs to them, or believes it's already dead. It's like looking at a corpse that happens to look exactly like you. And slowly, your brain starts believing that's exactly what it is. The condition often appears after severe depression, brain injury, or neurological disease. David's motorcycle accident damaged specific brain regions. The damage disrupted the connection between recognition and emotion. His brain could no longer confirm he was alive, so it defaulted to the only explanation that made sense. He must be dead, and once that belief took hold, everything else supported it. The lack of emotional response proved he was dead. The disconnection from his body proved he was a corpse. The delusion became self-reinforcing. Treatment for Cotard delusion is extremely difficult. You can't logic someone out of it. Showing them evidence doesn't work. Their brain rejects the evidence. You tell them their heart is beating. They say dead bodies can have residual muscle contractions. You show them they're breathing. They say it's just air moving through a corpse. You prove they're eating and digesting food. They say you're lying or they're being kept alive artificially. Every piece of evidence is reinterpreted to fit the delusion. Medication can sometimes help. Antipsychotics and antidepressants. Electroconvulsive therapy has shown promise in severe cases, but recovery is slow and difficult. Many patients never fully recover. They live in a state of constant existential horror, believing they're dead, but unable to stop existing. Trapped in a nightmare where they're buried alive inside their own body. David's case had a relatively positive outcome. After months of treatment, the delusion slowly faded. He started eating again, taking care of himself, accepting that he was alive, but he never fully recovered his emotional connection to his body. He described it as living in a stranger's skin. He knew intellectually he was alive, but he didn't feel alive, not the way he used to. The motorcycle accident had killed something in him, not his body, but his sense of self. Some cases are much worse. A man in France believed he had died and gone to hell. He thought he was being punished for sins he couldn't remember. Every moment of existence was torture. He tried to kill himself multiple times, not to die because he believed he was already dead, but to escape hell, to move on to whatever came next. The hospital had to keep him on suicide watch 24/7, because in his mind, suicide wasn't death. It was release. Another patient believed she was a vampire, not the romantic Hollywood kind, a true undead creature. She avoided mirrors because she claimed she had no reflection. She refused to go outside during the day. She insisted sunlight would destroy her. She would bite herself to prove she had no blood. When blood appeared, she claimed it was just residual fluid from before she died. Her mind twisted every piece of evidence to support her delusion. The psychological impact on families is devastating. Imagine watching someone you love insist they're dead. They look at you with empty eyes and say they can't feel love anymore, because love requires life. They're calm about it, matter of fact, which makes it even more disturbing. They're not hysterical. They're not emotional. They've simply accepted their death, and they can't understand why you won't accept it too. One mother described her son with Cotard delusion. He would sit in a chair for hours, not moving, not speaking. When she asked what he was doing, he said he was practicing being dead, learning to be still, learning to stop breathing. He believed if he practiced enough, his body would finally stop, and he could rest. She would watch him hold his breath until he passed out. His body would automatically start breathing again, and he would wake up frustrated, angry that his corpse refused to stay dead. The condition raises profound philosophical questions. What does it mean to be alive? Is it just biological function? Or is it the feeling of being alive? If someone is biologically alive but believes they're dead, are they truly living? These patients force us to confront uncomfortable truths about consciousness and reality, about how much of our existence depends on our brain believing it. In rare cases, Cotard delusion can coexist with other conditions. Some patients have both Cotard delusion and Capgras delusion. Capgras makes you believe your loved ones have been replaced by identical imposters. Imagine believing you're dead and everyone around you, is a fake. The paranoia and isolation are unbearable. These patients live in a horror movie that never ends, where nothing is real and they themselves don't exist. Treatment breakthroughs are rare, but they happen. One patient was convinced his brain had died. Nothing worked until doctors tried something unusual. They had him exercise, intense physical activity, running until his heart pounded, until sweat poured down his face, until every muscle burned. The physical sensations were so strong his brain couldn't ignore them. Slowly, the exercise reconnected his mind to his body. After months of therapy combined with daily intense workouts, his delusion faded. He could finally feel alive again. But most patients aren't that lucky. Many live with the condition for years, some for life. They go through the motions of existence without believing in it. They eat because they're forced to. They sleep because their body demands it. They interact with people because isolation makes things worse. But inside, they're convinced none of it is real. They're ghosts going through the motions of life. The syndrome highlights how fragile our sense of self really is, how dependent we are on our brain's ability to correctly interpret reality. One small malfunction, one disconnection between brain regions, and suddenly you're convinced you're dead. Your entire reality inverts, and no amount of evidence can convince you otherwise. Because the very organ you need to process that evidence is the one that's malfunctioning. Jules Cotard, original patient, the woman who believed she had no organs, eventually died of starvation. She refused all food and water for months. When they performed an autopsy, they found her organs were perfectly intact, perfectly healthy, until she starved them to death. Her delusion killed her. Not because it was true, but because she believed it was true. And sometimes belief is more powerful than reality. Today, Cotard Delusion remains one of psychiatry's greatest mysteries. We understand parts of it, the brain regions involved, the chemical imbalances, the triggering events, but we don't fully understand why it happens, or why some people recover and others don't, or how to reliably treat it. Each case is unique. Each patient's delusion slightly different. The walking dead, living among us, convinced they don't exist. David, the motorcycle accident victim, was interviewed years after his recovery. He was asked what it felt like to believe you're dead. He thought for a long moment. Then he said it wasn't scary. Not really. It was lonely. The loneliest feeling imaginable. Being surrounded by living people who insist you're one of them, when you know deep in your core that you're not. That you're something else. Something dead. Something that shouldn't exist. And having to pretend to be alive just to make them feel better. Walking corpse syndrome is the ultimate existential nightmare. Not death itself, but the belief in death while still conscious, still aware, still trapped in a body that refuses to let you go. It's being buried alive from the inside, watching yourself decay while everyone tells you you're fine. And the worst part is the medical tests agree with them. You are fine. Your body is healthy. Your organs work. Your brain functions. But you don't believe any of it, because the one thing you trust, your own mind, tells you you're dead. And in the end, which do you believe? The tests or yourself? The answer for Cotard patients is always the same. They believe themselves. They believe the delusion. They believe they're dead, and they live the rest of their lives as walking corpses, trapped between existence and non-existence, neither fully alive nor fully dead, just existing in the horrible space between. The walking dead, the living corpses, the people who died but forgot to stop moving.